And we are live.
All
Thank
right.
you, everybody, for joining us on another episode of Dan-A-Plooza. My guest at this time is the very talented acting coach and mentor, Jeffrey Ingman.
Hi, everybody. Hello. Hi, Dan. Good to see you.
Jeffrey, thank you for being on the show. We're glad to have you here. For those watching and future watching, Jeffrey is an acting coach and mentor. And if you are interested in the world of acting, please check out his website. That's www.jeffreyingman.com. You can find out all kinds of wonderful information. And if you're interested in getting led into the acting world, this is the man that you want to have help you. Jeffrey, thank you for being on the show.
Getting led into the acting world. That sounds so ominous. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you're looking to go in that direction. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. It's great to be here. It's so wonderful to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see if we have any comments. Hello, Dan Sobel. Thank you for watching us. He has said hello to both you and myself. We're glad you're here, Dan. So thanks for watching.
Hi, Dan Sobel. Hi.
So it's been a minute since I have certainly seen you last. So my first question to you is, what was it like for you to leave the country roads, West Virginia, and to move to the sunny side in California? What was that transition like for you?
Well, I'd been in California prior to going to West Virginia. So I'd already been in this environment before. And going ended up becoming this amazing gift, really, for 7 years. And it was hard. I mean, all of the culminating events that led up to leaving, leaving on January 1st, 2014. I'll never forget it because I literally, spent the new year in a hotel. But it was difficult. My mother was not well, and there were some other cumulative events going on, and it was it had nothing to do with the amazing faculty that I had the opportunity to work with, or the wonderful students that were always in the room. Very lucky that there were so many good humans in the room, and I loved it there. I also thought it was one of the most beautiful places I've literally ever been in my life. So it was hard, but I decided to go take care of my mother and before she passed, and that was difficult. And then I really had overworked myself in a way that was ridiculous. I think that last year I ended up doing 6 projects just back to back. Plus I was, I think, the division head at that time. And then I was also on these committees and stuff. And I was doing like SETC and all these other things, acronyms basically for auditions and stuff like that. Right. So, yeah. And so I left, and it was not an easy decision, but it was important that I did it for my family and actually for myself. It was actually not a bad move at the end. Just was one hell of a ride to get there, I'll tell you. Yeah.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
But we're glad that you are back, and we are glad that you have done many amazing, wonderful things. I know that I have taken a look at the resume, and I also want to encourage people, if following via social media, to check out Auditions Revelation. That's part of your Instagram.
Yeah. So I just started, I've been doing, well, I've been obsessed with auditions since I knew you. So I have literally been obsessed with helping people get work and trying to teach around the, anxiety issues, and also just some of the nuances that we often overlook. Here, it's a little different because a lot of my work has to do with film and television, but there's still a large majority, just yesterday, in fact, people still trying to get into shows here and those kinds of things around town among the theaters. But yeah, Audition Revelation is my business. I'm proud of it, and I'm grateful, knock on wood, that that there's respect in the community for my work. And I'm not great at advertising. I mean, kind of terrible at it, actually. But but I will say, thank goodness for word of mouth, because it keeps me very busy.
It definitely does. So I encourage everyone to go ahead and follow that on Instagram. And I know that I was reading further, into your resume, and that you have come up with a technique. Can you talk a little bit about that acting technique that you have designed?
Sure, Dan, I'm impressed by your research. That's amazing. Yeah, so it's called Not a Moment to Lose. And it's something that I actually started to develop that particular part of the puzzle back in West Virginia with Jason Young and Sarah Young. Actually, I would do some of these workshops with them, and they were like, you should create this thing. So I actually was inspired by the two of them to do it. And because my obsession is, I mean, I really do have this weird obsession around auditioning and why people do get cast or why someone else doesn't get cast, and or why two equally talented humans with essentially the same resume, one will get cast over another person getting cast. So I started creating this Not a Moment to Lose work because the title in and of itself is true. From the moment we really we are behind, let's say, the curtain in the case of a stage audition, we're in the process of creating, we're about to go out and act for people. So one of the things that I focus on is I developed an assessment tool for the actor before they walk in to deal with their anxiety and some of the tools that work around that anxiety. Then basically how we get into the space, which I've had it described in so many interesting ways, like I'm floating on air, it feels like there's a spotlight on me. I feel like I'm going through Jello. And this is hundreds of actors, and they seem to always kind of generate around one of those ideas. It's very hard to get from, the wings into the center of the space without having some kind of psychological event going on. And then there's just like the simple thing with the slate. And all of this is going to sound very mundane, really, when you start thinking about the audition itself. But the slate itself is really fascinating. It's interesting when people slate, they forget their names sometimes. They'll forget their pieces sometimes. And it's because the anxiety is like, well, you're not specific right now. So anything that's general, I can just jump right in there. My heart rate will go up. My perspiring will start to happen. My blood pressure will go up. So I built a tool around that, and then getting into the pieces, because you have to slate, and then all of a sudden you have to act like within 1 minute. And they're looking at you as an actor. They're not just thinking, oh, you're going to interpret this for me. So how do we get to that emotional place where we're fully connected before we speak? And how do we get to the place where we've made a choice on the first moment based on the reason we're speaking? In other words, the catalyst for speaking. So I got a lot to do in a very teeny amount of time. So I've created what I call the 2-breath system in that to help that event occur. And then, of course, if you have more than one monologue, there's kind of a transition thing that I build in to try to keep the anxiety out and also to keep us focused on the acting. Because again, you open that space up, the anxiety will find its way in there. It will talk
Oh
to
yeah.
you. So then, and then towards the end and so on. So that's really geared towards that's theater auditions, right? Or I'm being cast, I'm being called into, even for when I'm doing cold readings and things like that. There's an element of this that works. For film and television, it's so interesting, particularly now that we're mostly submitting through self-taping. So I won't go into all of it, but I will just say that I have modified this work towards self-taping, and it seems to have worked to pretty darn good success. I'm very fortunate, and my clients are willing to play along and go along with it, and I get people coming to me for those, because self-tapes are so weird, aren't they?
Oh yes.
It's kind of like, hi, I'm doing a self-tape, and this
Yes.
is how it's going to be done. And so there's already a sort of non-human experience going on because you're setting yourself up. So I do things like called find the camera, and I get your heart rate up to the speed of the actual piece, because the camera can see your heart rate, or actually can experience your heart rate. And then there's what is called the strengthening the eye, which I do, which is amazing for camera. One of the best things I teach. Mapping, another thing that I teach. All of this is under the umbrella of Not a Moment to Lose. And each one of those things is a particular tool to help so that when I'm watching you, I'm literally watching choices, connection, and sustainability. In other words, in order to keep it moving all the way through. So that's that, basically. I mean, there's a lot to it, but that's it in a nutshell. Long nutshell. Big old nutshell is what I just did there. Yeah.
Well, and I think that that's a great technique. I really feel that I got a whole volume of knowledge right now that can be stored and
Sure.
used
Yeah.
to your own advantage.
Yeah.
And it's great because we can all relate to it, and it's just, to me, it's just another chapter in moving forward, be a performer and just who you are as a person. So I think that that's great.
And it's constantly changing, Dan. it's
Oh,
it's
yes.
constantly changing. LA has decided this all of a sudden and that all of a sudden, and COVID flipped everything around in this really funky
Hmm.
way, and all of a sudden everything was about self-taping, and then everybody started going at what a good self-tape was, and that bothered me, to be honest with you, because people were making money off of a very simple thing. Now,
Hmm.
acting within the self-tape has its own thing. That's about the acting, but actually just doing the self-tape, and now there's all sorts of rumbling, like, I don't want to see blue screens anymore, and that's one or two casting directors or one or two agents or managers, and then everybody goes, oh, should I use my blue screen or should I not? Should I use a gray screen or not? Should I not use a screen at all? Should I activate the monologue like it's a scene? It's all this stuff. So you have to read sort of the fine print on the notifications that you get when you get your sides or your submission from an agent or manager, or directly from a casting director or a director. You have to really look at the fine print to figure out exactly what they're asking you to do. And that, it's nice to have someone around that can say, oh, that's what that is. That's what they're really asking you to do there. Yeah. I love it.
Indeed.
I love it. It's enormous joy. Yeah.
Indeed. As we were talking earlier before we joined, if you would like, you can flip the script and ask me something if there's something you would like to ask me.
And I have so many questions for you because I'm
All
so
right.
are you talking to them or me?
I'm talking to you. You can ask
Okay.
me anything.
Yeah. So, well, Dan, I mean, so the last time I saw you, I can actually visually tell you where we saw each other. So we were outside of the theater building, and there, those double doors on the third floor. I think it's the third floor. Um, and you and I were talking, and you had come by for something. You were no longer in school, but you had come by for something. And we were talking, and you were talking about not doing this, but you were talking about like the people you had met even then, like you had been going to like wrestling matches and stuff, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So that I was always sort of fascinated by that aspect of you. And okay, look, I mean, my joy used to be classroom teaching. Isn't so much classroom teaching anymore, by the way. It is being able to just sit with somebody, and like you, Dan, all I want to do is just find out what you're doing. With full disclosure, I said to you before we started, I just want to interview you. So I think you have the most prime job. If I could go around interviewing people, because whenever I get a chance to bring, like, either known people or casting directors or agents or somebody into the room to talk to either my clients or students or whatever, it's so fun because I'm just mostly interested in what they do and who they are. So here's the question to you. So I am really curious. Like, you told me a little bit about this at the very beginning, and you told me how you got these people. But can you tell me like your most favorite interview so far? That's the curiosity I have.
Yeah. So it's hard because it's been a lot of people, So it's really hard to pinpoint, but I think it's when I can really be myself and play off of a guest and everything, when we can really play towards each other. And like I'll tell you a couple of favorites. One is Destiny. Destiny Beard is a singer and songwriter. She sings like Celtic Irish songs. She is Her father is a fantasy illustrator artist, so he draws all these mythical creatures. And she is part of her family. They are a traveling Renaissance, so they travel from state to state. And so I asked her to do the show, and so she likes to dress up, and so do I. So we dressed up as pirates together, And
I think
um
I saw the pictures of that one, or I may have seen a little bit of
yes, and so then like she's like do an introduction. I'm like, are you ready? And I would just
it.
play that, and I'd be like, oh, we be losing connectivity,
Oh,
and
oh goodness. Oh
and
goodness.
it's very meant to be cheesy and everything, and it's silly and fun. And so now I'm getting like requests like, can you be a character, Dan? Can you not just can we see this other side of Dan other than the interviewer? I have another friend who's a cosplayer, and we like Wayne's World, so she wants to come as one of the members of Wayne's World, maybe the other one, and us do the shtick and everything, and then go into talk about that. So now I'm getting requests. Can we kind of like cosplay and be these characters, and not only interview but have fun with that as well?
Love that so much.
So
Well,
it
look, you get to use all your acting chops, right?
yeah yeah it's
I mean, really.
it definitely is. It definitely is a lot of fun, and my joy is knowing that I'm giving these people an opportunity, and that hopefully that their dream and what they want comes true. So I want them to socially engage, and I feel like during the pandemic we were kind of divided. So Dan-A-Plooza is to bring people together, people you think would never get together, and we can network and connect, and maybe our dreams or connection, or we can be pointed in the right direction. That's what it's for.
Yeah, yeah. To that point, my friend. I mean, we're all still resonating and still
Oh
vibrating
yes,
from that experience. But it's amazing how many people are finding little like niches that are like what you're describing. Like, I found this during COVID because we felt so isolated and alone and separate from each other. And the other thing that it did is it humanized, for me, it humanized everybody.
oh
And
yeah,
it brought the temperature down, especially in this environment kind of that I'm in, not so much San Diego, but more LA. The temperature is really hot and everybody's like, oh, got to get a job, or I need to make this, or I need
yes,
that. It's very uncomfortable, but it even has changed a little bit. I mean, you know, and then not to mention some of the awakening that we have all experienced and we are all still learning from. And that too is changing the way people see things. And so I think interconnectedness, humane interaction with each other, kindness, graciousness, um, and being able to listen. You know how hyper I was as a teacher. And sometimes that was good, and sometimes that was not good. I'll be completely honest. Maybe not for me or for the people who were listening to me or in the room with me, because I was always hyped up. And there was something about these last few years that I'm so grateful for. And it's also why I've actually gone. I do teach occasionally. Like right now, I'm teaching workshop at some high school up the street, and I get hired to do like audition workshops around the country and stuff. Um, but it's just, yeah, to be able to just stop and listen. One of my favorite phrases right after COVID and after um, George Floyd and a bunch of the absolute like mind-boggling issues that came out of the last 3 years that are important and absolutely necessary was, Jeff, shut up. Shut up. Just listen. And I'd like to have thought that I was a great listener. Maybe I had some skill sets there too. I know that people have said that before, but it's different now. And I'm actually calmer as a result of it. I have to be on hot all the time. And yeah, and my clients, respond to that. So yeah, it's great. Yeah.
I'm glad that for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this is like a train that's going like all the time, is woo woo, all the time. And I definitely because I always enjoyed late watch TV and television hosts, but I'm like, we have to really appreciate our guests and everything, because sometimes hosts, they overdo it and make it about themselves. It's like you have to value our guests and truly appreciate them. But it's like, why just do the interview thing and everything, why not add some comedy, a little bit of humor, and everything like that?
Yeah.
That's what makes it different, you know. I wanted to be different from everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. And the joy that you, that's why I was really fascinated that, that you started this, and that, before, when we were talking before we came on here, that, your joy is really obvious, and, when I met you, or when we were in the same space before,
Oh yeah.
you were struggling. I mean, we were all struggling with something,
Hmm.
and I know we still struggle. And like you said, it's got its own track, the human one, that's problematic and difficult and hard and wonderful. But it's so obvious that you are having you are having fun, and and the fact that you're moving the ball forward for others, because I know you're doing that too, but also that you get to, you get to hear information that people pay good money to hear, by the way, from people very casually and comfortably. And yeah, and you make people comfortable, like, I'm not going to tell you my deepest, darkest secrets. I don't. I have a lot of deep, dark secrets, but yeah, um, but yeah, it's good. It's really, really wonderful.
Yeah, and I know that it just kind of snowballed into it. You know, it was like I started out with 5 people, and then I had met this singer songwriter who has her own band, who also does podcasts, who's a fitness instructor, who has all these different accolades. And then I was like, do you want to do my show? And then like it kept going from there, you know. And so um
Oh, so they were your first?
no, the first people, I decided I wanted to just talk to people that I kind of knew, and like, you know, I just wanted to see what it was going to be like. So
Yeah.
I interviewed my friend Joey Medea from theater.
Yes. Joey Medina.
um,
Yes. Uh-huh.
I
He's got
interviewed,
a new book out, right?
yes he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
I interviewed my friend Rusty Gilligan. Rusty actually was a child actor back in the day. He was in Pete's
Oh.
Dragon.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, and he was a wrestler, and now he does art, and he did art for the Avengers movie. So
Wow.
and what
That's
was
cool.
interesting was when he was a child actor, he would bring his sketchbook to his agent. And his agent knew that he had acting things, and then that's how he got discovered for that.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
I had Rusty, my friend Jeffrey Steele. He was on here. Um, and then my friend Ilaska. I always like, make sure I got to say the name.
Uh-huh.
Um, Iluska is she's a very multi-talented person. She was a figure skater. She is an actress. She's done radio.
Yeah.
So she is very multi-talented, wonderful lady. She was actually featured extra in Halloween Kills, the Michael Myers movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she was telling me all about being on set for that. And
Yeah.
then I met this musician, rock star who liked wrestling, Billy Peck, and he's in a metal band, and he liked my stuff. So those are the people I started out with, and then I went through my friends and everything, and I had met people from conventions or meet and greets or school or my job or people who just know me, you know. So it just kind of developed, and then there was new friends, and then it just kind of blew up, and you know, this is where we are.
So you started, what was the actual year or the time that you started?
I started last year on Memorial Day in 2021.
We're frozen.
Am I still frozen?
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
am I good?
Well, there you are. Okay.
Okay. I
I thought I,
started.
I thought I was going,
Oh, yeah. Oh, you froze a little bit. It's all right. So we may be having a little technical difficulty, folks. So we'll see about getting Jeffrey back in here. We also have more guests for Dan-A-Plooza. We have, I know on Sunday, we have model Crazy Kitty will be back on Sunday. Um, that's November 13th, 6 p.m. And we have also a comic book panel, which will be also Sunday, November 13th. That's with Marvin Wynn with the comic book The Edge. Grant, he'll be talking about his comic book Beowulf, and Heroinberg will be there. So we also have all those amazing guests. And then finally for November, we also have um, our final guest for November. We have Nancy Ann Ritter, and Nancy Ann was the bathroom girl in Scream. So if you've seen the horror classic, she was in the bathroom. She played the bathroom girl along with the cheerleader, Leonora Skelfel. So that's before Nev Campbell got attacked by Ghostface. So we have that guest as well. We're starting to get more guests in December. So in December, we're going to have amazing guests. We already have Patricia Summerland. And Patricia Summerland is, let me go ahead and add Jeffrey back in. There you are, sir.
That was amazing. It said that apparently there were possibly someone trying to steal our information. Does it do that? Does it say that?
Oh, I had never seen that before. I'll have to look into that.
We'll just know that's not true.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. I was plugging other guests away, so I I filled the time.
I'm not sure why I did that. Anyways, yeah.
But
I'm sorry about that.
yep, and I was telling everybody we're actually going to have an amazing guest in December, Patricia Summerland. She was a wrestler from the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling back in the early '80s, and now she has does a radio show with Sirius X. So she has two radio shows. So
that's great. Wow, that's so cool, man. I love that.
So lots of fun guests.
My the only association I have to wrestling is the show Glow, because one of my clients was on Glow a couple of times. So,
on the Netflix, yeah.
As a guest.
Yeah. Oh wow, very very cool. Do you have any more questions for me, or?
Well, yeah, I could go on forever. So you made it through COVID and you're here now. And then,
yes.
I was wondering, are you, I don't know, are you still acting? Obviously you're keeping in touch with people in this industry, I actually do have a question. Have you ever thought about, I know you have a collection, I think on YouTube, right? Of this stuff.
Yes.
I mean, I'd love to know if you're sort of taking pearls from each one and sort of putting together that gorgeous necklace of information. If you're going to write a book or doing something like that.
I may. There's a lot of stories to tell, especially from meet and greets and the people I've met. I have a new gimmick with sometimes the people I meet. We do, I bring out fedoras and we do a pose with fedoras. So there may be traveling with Dan the Man with fedoras or something. Yeah.
Get out there. That is so cool. And what would you do? Just like trek across the country or something?
Yeah, and meet different people. I've met different celebrities. The one that it comes to mind is I went to the Gathering, which is a big wrestling convention, and I met the dancers for the wrestling show I used to watch, WCW, and I met all of them, and I had brought different color fedoras. So we put them on, and I didn't know that the main dancer was gonna be wanted to be my photo op because she was with a different vendor and guest, wasn't included in what I did that.
Yeah.
And so she saw the hats and they said, "Are you going to do the photo with Dan the Man?" And she said, "Well, I need a certain hat." And so, being the gentleman that I am, I gave her my hat. And then we took like this group picture and everything. And then like she walked off, and some people are like, "I got to get hats like Dan."
That's hysterical. Do they ever sign like whatever you have them? I mean, do you have them sign things?
Yeah, sometimes I bring stuff. I met Diane Franklin. She was in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Last American Virgin, and she actually started out doing a Reese's peanut butter commercial.
Yeah.
And it's very old school. And it's the classic. We're walking down the street, and she has the peanut butter, and the guy has the chocolate, and they bump into each other. The
Oh,
chocolate goes in there and the peanut butter, and they're like, "Hey, you got peanut butter in my chocolate." It's very cheesy
you got
line.
something in my peanut butter. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. They don't do that anymore. But man, that was really like that commercial was all over the place. I mean, with different,
oh
actors
yeah.
doing different things, but
And,
that was very popular.
and so she was in that commercial. So when I met her, I brought a jar of peanut butter and a chocolate bar, and we reenacted it. And And they're like, "You can do that? I gotta get peanut butter, I gotta get chocolate, So
You got people now buying Reese's. You need a cut.
exactly. So they say sometimes when I meet these people that it's an adventure meeting Dan, because it's not like just the standard meet and greet. There's something extra there. There's something different about meeting me. And some people have said like they remember me just from meeting me, and they've met me like 5 years ago, and they
Wow.
still remember meeting me. My next guest, Nancy Ann Ritter, met me at a convention, and she wrote to me last night, "You are one of my favorite people I've met all year."
Fantastic.
So
It's just extraordinary, Dan. I mean, it's just amazing to me. And the fact that it seems so easy for you, and it's fearless. These acts are fearless, and there's a and I would say that about several of the people that I was fortunate enough to meet back there. There's just a fearless, and kind of go at it, do it kind of quality, which is amazing.
oh yeah,
Yeah. And, the fact that, you know, why not? Life is actually too short, isn't it? So, and if you've got people like you and people who are around who care, I mean, listen, I believe this to be totally true. And I think this is probably why she may have said this to you. One of the reasons, maybe, is everybody wants to be heard, truly
yes,
heard, for who, in the way that they
all right,
can fully express themselves. Everybody wants to be seen and truly seen for who they
mhm.
are. And I believe everybody wants to be experienced, where it's not just someone talking at you or someone being talked at or someone sort of forcing an idea on another person, but truly experienced. This is my joy, this is my suffering, this is my. And I think that when you have someone who sort of gently walks into a room and is playful and is friendly and doesn't really have like your expectations, you didn't preface me to say, look, I need you to do this and do that and do the other thing. The fact that you just let people play and be silly, it's I think really, really, really important. And I run a conservatory during the summer, and the same thing. I see these young people coming in; they're high school kids at the La Jolla Playhouse, and I'm the director of that conservatory. And one of the things I can tell you is, especially since COVID, there's a lot of lack of social interaction because, of course, they all had to stay home, and this was basically the medium by which we learned things. But I'll tell you, give them an opportunity to just be present without huge expectations. They will give so much, and they will be so ready. It's quite amazing. And you know, you do that. You're sort of this like, okay, let's do this, you know, open door, whatever. And I love it. It's great. Congratulations. That's really, really cool.
Thank you. Um, am I still acting? I was doing. I had made the transition from theater to film,
Oh, that's
and
right. That's right.
yes,
You sent me that. Yeah. You'd
and
done a horror film?
yeah. So it was interesting when I got this audition because I was reading multiple parts. There was a newscaster part, there was another part, and then there was this evil chef. And as myself as an actor, I like to play to my strengths. So um, originally in the script it recalled for like the chef character to be this larger character, so I knew I wasn't big in size, so it's like, okay, well, what can I do to bring this character to life, even though if it's not physically written for me, what can I do to play on this with the words in the script that I've been given.
Yeah.
And I originally read the character and I thought he had to be very dark. And so I had this mentality of this is a very dark character and he's nasty, and I'm just going to play this evil darkness and everything. And when I went to the audition, they wanted me to flip and like almost do the opposite of what I did. So it's like I had to pre-notion. Now I got to flip the script, within a minute. What am I going to do? So what I did was during this audition is I played to the camera. Um, so I would make like my eyes bug out and I would do these different turns and everything and looks and everything. And that's what got me the part. He liked that I was open and played to the camera.
Interesting. That's fun. Is this a person who does a lot of like that genre?
He does like a lot of independent films, but he
Hmm.
said, Dan, I didn't know where to put you because you read the newscaster part, and I thought maybe there, and then I thought this, but when you were playing that evil chef, you brought the evil, and you played, with your face a lot and everything. He said, I knew I needed that, so it
That's a
was.
good problem to have.
Yeah.
Too many choices to cast you. That's a great problem to have. Good for you.
So when we went to shoot and film it, I was nervous at first, because I wanted to, do really well and everything. And I didn't know that they also had their camera on a dolly, so we were eating in this dinette scene and they would like go around the table with the dolly and everything. And so when I had the line of "Don't spoil your dinner." That was my line. That was that, and then there's like evil laughter and everything like that.
As you
And,
do.
what's that?
As you do. As you do.
Yes, yes.
Evil laugh.
As evil laughter follows. So,
Uh-huh.
um, and so I would do that, and then when I saw the product and like I'm doing this evil laugh, and then there's like a fade or a crossover, and you can see where I'm kind of fading away. I was like, that's pretty cool. Like,
When you see the final product, yeah.
yeah. And
Yes.
we had an opening of that, and then um, so I did that one, and that one's on DVD. So I did that, and then I did a student project called Indentured, and
Yeah.
in this film, the student actually was going to film school in Ithaca, New York,
Yeah.
and they had to do a final project. So they rented out kind of like stuff in this little town, and we had to shoot this film in a restaurant. And in the restaurant, they had like an old train car, so it looked like we were on a train. And
Oh,
I remember like the um, photos, the headshot, and they were introducing the cast, and they're like, and so I was like the henchman, like number one, and then there was another guy named like henchman number two. And so when I look at his photo, it's all very like stoic, and he looks like he's a bad guy, and then there's like me, like
The happy henchman, right?
yes,
The
the
happy
happy
henchman.
henchman.
That's right.
It could be a musical number.
The happy henchman. Yeah,
But
right. That musical. Yes.
exactly.
Well,
So
I'm curious, was that wasn't Chattanooga, right? Or was it Chattanooga?
no, it
Where
wasn't in Chattanooga. It was like a small town in before Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was
And
just curious. The only place I've ever been that has a train in it and is everything's about trains is Chattanooga, which always blew my mind. But yeah, I was just curious.
it's kind of like an Italian restaurant, but they would have this train car, and if people wanted to reserve it, they could eat in there, so the students had reserved it and everything like that. And it was interesting to watch that, and you learned like how you have to do the subtle changes into that. You gotta put this utensil on this right side because you did it before, so do it again for continuity, or
Yeah, yeah, that was yeah, that's interesting. I had a client who was on set, so I do side coaching. So people sometimes call me from set.
oh yeah,
And a parent called me. I won't get into too much detail in case they're watching this, but they this kid is on a series and is the child of one of the lead actors anyway in the
okay,
series, and but called me in a panic and was like, they're not happy with this particular kid. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And she said, they're getting mad at him about continuity. And this is a very young actor, actually. It's a teen,
yes,
a young teen, actually. And I said, well, what was the exact argument? And actually, for them, it had to do with the repetition of emotional life, of being able to express yourself. Uh,
hmm
so, the difficult thing for a young actor is, oh, by the way, you have to repeat that behavior. And we may have
right,
to repeat many times. So what would happen is he would let, use some of the tools that we've worked on, start to come to that wonderful full life. Apparently the kid was not happy at all about what was going on at the table at the time and was throwing a bit of a fit about it, was angry about it. Well, he would move differently every time because he's
oh yeah,
a young person. So he's just moving the way he thinks he's just moving. So, yeah, it was so not good that they had to let him go that day. So they just cut
yes,
around. It was interesting, but in LA, something like that can actually get you get you fired.
right,
Interestingly, and I discovered, and I did not know this before. The years that I've been here, I now know, of course, but I did not know that they change out. I was a child actor, right? But I don't
mhm.
remember anything like this. They change out the child actor often, and you don't
Oh
even
yeah,
know they've done it. Like there's like no conversation about it. It's like, well, because they're not in it enough, and they figure, well, from one season to the next, that kid could have grown up or gotten taller or whatever. So they
hmm
just bring in a whole other actor for that. I didn't really know how common that was. That was what blew my mind. I knew it happened because you can see it happen on some shows, but this was really shocking. So I thought after that moment, because it wasn't a great day for this young actor, I thought, well, that may be the very last time. But he just got called back he's in January. He's coming back for a few more episodes. So that's good. They didn't fire him, but to your point, I mean, that's how important, like knowing where something is, and then being able to act through whatever's being required of you, which is
Mhm.
just, it sounds easy, but it is not always easy to act what is required of you, especially if they're rigorous scenes, large emotional experiences, and so on. Because your body is like, I'm not really paying attention. I'm just having this behavior.
Oh yes,
So to be able to control the action while expressing the full behavior, a lot easier to make these mistakes on stage. By the way, we get to cover up a lot on stage in this way, but the camera does not lie. And that is, I can't tell you how true that actual statement is. It will not let you lie. And the minute you do, it will show up. they may edit around you so that we don't have to see the lie or see how you're
Hmm.
not connected or see that you haven't there's no choice there or see that there's no
Hmm.
point of view or that your eyes are doing something funny, you know, because they cut on the blink. I don't know if you know this.
Hmm.
So let's say you and I are in a scene together
Right.
and we're intensely engaged in a conversation.
Hmm.
Well, if I start blinking, they're going to cut around the blink because they want it to maintain intensity. So they'll cut to you. So in the editing room, they'll cut from the blinking.
Hmm.
And my friend, yeah, my friend Dina Spivey Waters, who's married to Mark Waters and is an actress and has won an Emmy, and she's kind of amazing. She said that to me about 5 years ago, and again, it was something I was like, "Oh my god, I never." And now I totally get it because I actually infuse that into my strengthening the eye work, and it makes perfect sense. You know, without looking like, like big bug eyes, or like when it's so intense you can't even watch somebody because they're just like that's not right. Uh, if it's out of character, especially. But yeah, that was really interesting to me. So she was in 6 Feet Under, and she was with this other actor, and she had a monologue basically, and lucky her, she had this amazing monologue. And the actor who she was doing the monologue for said, "Don't blink, because the minute you cut to me, so try not to blink." And that was the first time she'd heard it too. So it's really interesting to me. And then I, of course, became obsessed with it and started to look around and see what that was all about. And now I watch films in the same way. I'm like, oh yeah, they just cut on the blink. It's interesting.
um, if you want, I'll tell you the last film I did because
Sure, sure, yeah, absolutely.
uh, I was it was the leader of a biker gang. That was the last
You were
film
the
that I
leader of a biker gang.
yeah.
We're not talking a Schwinn bike, right? You're talking
No, no,
motorcycle.
no, 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 motorcycle. So,
Do you ride
um,
a motorcycle?
no, my father did. Um,
Oh,
so what happened was, we were shooting a movie. There's been a film crew that comes that do like Christian movies, and they were doing this story about this real life incident about this cop who kind of had a troubled life, and he had been abused, and he had all these bad things, and he was sometimes aggressive on the force, and he would use brutality and everything. So he found God and eventually found himself, through this process. But
yeah.
for the bar scene, it was at this tavern. So I go up and I'm meeting some of the other extras. And the thing is, they wanted us to dress like bikers, but there are real bikers there. And sometimes real bikers don't like poser bikers. So, um, so
Not everybody's
uh,
wearing a black leather outfit, right? With
no, no. So
on the back of the
these
vest.
these two guys walk up to me, and I could tell that like they're here for the film, like they're not the like I could tell like right off the bat. And so they're like, "You here for the movie?" And I'm like, "Who's asking?" That's what I said.
You're trying to hold your own among these bikers.
Yeah, because I'm trying to find out, are you legit or not? So I'm like, "Who's asking?"
Oh my god, that's
And then
funny.
they're like, "No, it's going to be a really great film." And I go, "Oh yeah, I'm here for that." Like once they spilled it, because they didn't know if I was real or not.
No,
So I
no,
made
that's
my voice sound guttural to protect my own skin and hide.
very funny. Yeah.
And so when we get in there to shoot the scene, he's like, "Okay, well, I need somebody to be the leader." And everybody in the extras, they're like, "Well, we've never acted before, or done, any of that." And they're like, "Well, we need somebody to speak up." And they're like, "This guy spoke up earlier," and everything like that.
Way to step
So
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I won by default. And so um, we do this biker scene, and the cop is gonna come in, and he's gonna beat me up, and
Ooh.
he comes running in. He's like very intense, and it's like, and like I know that I'm acting, but I'm like, oh my god, this is like really like I feel like we're gonna go into slugfest mode. And so um
Okay.
he comes over and he's like very intense. Like I could see like, him breathing and everything like that. And he did not like how I had a bad attitude and everything like that. And so he was gonna punch me. And like, so it's like I'm learning to sell by doing this movie, and so when he punched me, like I thought he was going to do it like once or twice, but he punched me like 5 or 6 times. Like he really, he really punched me. So
He
I
actually.
was, no, he didn't punch me. He like fake punched me.
Okay.
So
Did you
like
have a,
I'm,
did you have
what's
a
that?
fight director on set? Did you
No,
guys have a? You did not have a fight director on set. Oh,
no.
wow.
so, so
Okay.
he's like pulling and I'm like just, doing like emotions like I'm getting punched
Yeah. Yeah.
off a table. So it's kind of, and it's not too hard. So he punches me, and then this big brawl breaks out and everything like that. And so there was some other guy that he went to try and tackle, and we're throwing stuff and everything, and like the one guy in our gang, he wanted to throw the pitcher and make a statement, but he didn't throw it hard enough, so it just goes ting ting ting. It just it just chills, and I'm like,
Nice little. Did they hold that? Was the camera on it when it happened?
yeah, you just see like a little pitcher mug go doo doo doo, and so I'm like,
Tell me they kept it. Did they
they
keep
took
that?
it. No, they made us do it again, but like I was busting out laughing when he
I was
said
gonna
cut.
say that's a perfect comic moment right there. All this
Oh
biz
yeah, but it's
going on.
supposed to be serious, So I laughed, and we had to teach him how to throw the picture, like proper.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we did this scene, and there was other patrons in there, and people didn't know it was a movie, so people thought that when I was yelling at this waitress and everything, that I was really a biker and I was really mad and everything like that, and that I was starting stuff, and people were taking out their phones and everything, and like, and I didn't know
So
that they were just customers. I thought they were, other extras, and so
yeah.
um, when I get arrested because I caused a riot, and I get arrested by actual police officers who are acting in this movie. Um, we had to stop and everything, and so I'm being detained in handcuffs, and um, people are going in and out of the restaurant, and so they don't really know, like, why am I allowed to talk, and why am I, and why are the officers cracking up at my jokes, while we're waiting for the next take, because you know,
Was it filmed on like an iPhone or was it filmed on? Was there
oh yeah,
cameras around?
there was actually cameras.
Okay. Well, just because it sounds so subversive
Oh
that
yeah,
because people can create entire films, as you know, on a iPhone now,
oh yeah,
but it's a and so I was curious about that because it sounds so subversive because you're in a space, you're in a public place, people have
yeah,
just gone there to breakfast or lunch or whatever the heck it was that the time that you were there, and then of course the real police are coming in. I mean, that's really interesting. If
oh yeah.
but he had cleared it with everybody at the restaurant, right?
Yeah, he did, and he had talked to the police beforehand, so they all like knew
Yeah,
their stuff, but the
yeah.
patrons had no idea.
Well, that's a
So,
great way to get authentic responses.
oh yeah. So
Interesting. How
uh,
fun.
now I'm being arrested, and we have to go outside the restaurant and put me in the squad car. So I have to like yell and da 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 and put up a struggle and da 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 da, and try to just kind of be a little bit obnoxious. And they had to put me in the car, but there was something with the key. So there's a scene where you're supposed to, and you can't open the door, because it's like locked, So I'm improvising by like putting my foot like on the car, and just trying to struggle and do why they figured this out, or
Good.
maybe I mouth a little more or something, so I'm improving,
What I love about that is it was because you were vocally aggressive in an earlier scene, right? And they were
Yeah,
like, "That's the guy we want to have be the bad guy."
yeah.
or the
So
guy who gets arrested, and yeah,
yeah,
that's cool.
so I got arrested, and I had a girlfriend, for the scene, and she was upset that I was in the
Your role just
patio.
kept getting bigger and bigger.
What's that?
Your role just kept getting bigger and bigger and more
I
complex.
guess as it moved along, and then everything like that, and I realized I sounded very twangy, like as I was sitting in the car, and I was like, I became very hickish somehow during this course of event.
Yeah.
But
So did
um,
it get released?
it did, and what's interesting is they actually show the scene of the bar fight, and there's me where it's getting punched, and so we're looking at it, and they're like, "Look at that guy! He's getting his butt kicked, and that's Dan."
That's great. Did
So
it release like on how did it release? Did it release online or did it release?
it released like on actual copies. Like I actually have a copy of it, like a physical copy, and Dean Cain is in it, and but yeah, it's definitely a
Very
interesting
cool.
movie. It's called Dispatch, and
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm just listed as extra in the credits. But it was a lot of fun. I improvised a lot. Like he's like, okay, just come up with dialogue, Dan, and just so it was just
That's
like
great.
randomly. I'm gonna be mad at this waitress. You poured my beer wrong. You do, it's just like all this off the cuff, And so I'm like, oh
So
my goodness,
you didn't get credited as unruly biker or something?
no, it's fine. It was
Man, they missed their opportunity. They should have done that. Unruly
Yeah, but it's fine because when I watch it, I'm like, that was a lot of improvisation.
Good on you. That's great. And did most of it land in the film, or did a lot of it hit the editing
Some
room,
of
or
it,
what?
not me getting arrested, which everybody wanted to see. Some of my
Yeah,
friends.
yeah,
Just me, because the problem, or the way the scene is like, with him beating me up, it's supposed to be footage for how aggressive he is. So it's like the police chief sees how bad he beat up this biker gang, and it doesn't show where I started it just shows where I'm getting pummeled, and everything, so it makes him look like
They-
he's the aggressor.
did they do makeup and everything for you, so you could look all
No,
bloody? So,
no.
so just him punching, yeah.
Just him, but not really. It's like,
Well,
there's
I
like,
know. I know he's
yeah,
not kidding. He's pulling.
yeah. Because I would have fallen down like a sack of potatoes. And
Yeah.
see.
And, well, that was really truthful, Dan. Dan. All right. Dan, are you
Yeah,
with us? Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm just saying that would be them asking if you were okay
Oh,
because you'd be
oh
unconscious.
yeah, yeah. It was. It just killed me. Just doing that whole scene and everything, and like the films, I consider them like building blocks for me to get to different plateaus and success. So
Yeah.
I would like to do more, but with the way my job is, and sometimes I've been moving from department to department, it's like, and with doing this, it's like I don't have a lot of free time. So I tell people, if there's a role or a small role where you want to plug me in, I could be your guy, to do that.
Yeah. That's great. And you can also just start, there's a whole thing around, getting your clips up either on your own YouTube channel or on other platforms
Oh
like
yeah.
IMDb or Actors Access. And you can have if you do enough of those, you can make a little reel out of them if there's enough action and dialogue going on. So yeah, that's really cool. Very cool. Good on you. I love that. I love that you kept that dream alive.
Oh yeah, it'll be that way, especially when it is my time to go. There'll be a reel, and there'll be a fedora, and a Hawaiian shirt, as I leave
Yeah,
my life.
and you'll be like, this is the life.
Yes.
This is Dan's life.
3 disc
Yeah,
set.
exactly. That's fun.
Anything you want to say and promote on Dan-A-Plooza as we wrap it up?
Uh, well, the other thing that we didn't talk about was just the mentoring side of it. So I
Mhm.
have probably 60 plus mentees. Those are
Oh,
people
wow.
who just need to, because this industry is difficult and sometimes unintentionally cruel. I
Hmm.
don't believe its intent is to be cruel, but it is unintentionally cruel sometimes. And also, it's just hard to navigate all the shifts. SAG is doing something different, and AFTRA, and all of a sudden, these, one person just said to me that they showed me actually their agent was completely eliminated from Screen Actors Guild, so they can no longer be represented by this agency because they're no longer a part of Screen Actors Guild. Anyway, because of something, I don't know, malfeasance, something happened. In any case, there's always these things, and so I can get a simple question like, what do you think of this particular piece? They'll read it to me. I might say, this is, they might ask about it, or they might ask if their take is good. Those are all mentor pieces. My work side is when we comment together and we work on material, or I self tape with you and we get the self tape, in a way that will get you work or representation. So I guess what I would say is, I do welcome questions about the industry. If I don't know something, I really don't have a lot of ego around this at all. So if I don't know something, I will actually try to find the answer for it, because it's usually a question that I can actually use as an answer that I could possibly use in my work. People just need to know that they're being, because this is an industry that doesn't welcome easily, and it's also just really hard. It's very, very hard, and so oftentimes I'm just an ear, just to shut up and hear what they're saying and listen to them, because they just need to talk to somebody who kind of knows something about what's happening. And yeah, so I wanted to say that if there are anybody out there who's looking for that kind of information, I can't overdo it, of course, because sometimes my hours get spent on mentoring, and I actually need to make a living. So I have this other side, and so I have the fee side, which is all work side. But with the packages that I have and stuff, people get free mentoring based on it. So I am fortunate enough that I have actors that have gotten back to me years after they've done some work with me. And the other side of that, of course, is the coaching for film and television. But besides that is the college bound people. So right now so I've got kind of three hats. One is college bound, graduate school, undergraduate, trying to get into really competitive schools. Film and television side, often involving self tapes and some work there. And then I teach, and usually I'll do like a specialty class in November. Usually I'll do it. I can't do it this year because I'm so busy. So that's good. But in January, I'm doing a class with some playwrights in town, which is an acting with playwrights, and it's an amazing class. Yeah, and so that's the teacher side of me. Mostly a coach now. I mostly coach people to get into schools, and I mostly coach people to get work or representation. So yeah.
That's amazing. And
So
keep up the good work and everything. I'd like to thank everybody for watching Dan-A-Plooza. I'd like to personally thank Jeffrey Ingman for being on the show tonight. It's been definitely
great
a
seeing you.
blast.
Yeah. So
And
great.
oh, yes, it's really great. And then Sunday, we will have model Crazy Kitty back here on the show, and we're going to have the comic book panel on Sunday at 9 o'clock. So be back for Dan-A-Plooza on Sunday. So have a good night.